Hello, and welcome to an adventure like no other. Far more than what you have known, there is something far more to be known than you can ever know. And it is all about you, the real you, your real awareness with your intuitive senses. You were never taught that the real you, your real awareness, is operating 5 bodies in cause and effect, restricting creation. You have been taught to think that you are only a one-dimensional human person, with a mind and emotions, and with a very short lifespan on this planet Earth. More than what your mind can grasp is your intuitive senses that can be opened to see beyond all your restrictions. You have always had an opening to see beyond what you have known, and this has been purposely kept from you, and this is where you have heard rumors and stories about your nightly dreams. Your so-called dreams is your opening to your intuitive senses that will allow you, the personal you, to excel beyond what you have previously known. Everyone has intuitive senses, and very few people take advantage of what is possible by recognizing something more than their mind can understand. Creation has its place for all of us, and then there is all life, which is far more than anything than what can become with creation. Everything we experience is necessary for us to survive with whatever we choose and decide our life to be. New Kevin Smith is the great witness to something more than what can be taught and learned in any school. It can be so that when anyone first listens to Kevin's intuitive side experiences, also known as real side experiences, from what their personal mind has known, Kevin's manner of expression will at first be rather different to comprehend. This is where this introduction and reading the new books and Facebook groups will help. Have fun deciding. Dwayne the Great Writer and Seer.
In this real side experience, I would find myself in a natural environment, though one that was especially dark and somewhat forbidding. I would not be alone, for the body form predominating the creational position I was in would be that of crocodiles of various sizes. Impressions revealed that these crocodiles were not animal forms directly animated by real awareness prior to the establishing of the secondary personal fabricated self, and as such would be operating in ways that make sense with the environment they are in, but instead body types where the secondary self had been created, as it will when free will generating of ideas via the body vehicles becomes available, that as we create ideas through the body vehicle mechanics, we remove ourselves from the real awareness, everything isness position, and as we cease idea creating, thought and emotion manifesting, we return to the nowness of our real awareness, true being selves, and afforded is a comparison between the two positions, which ultimately facilitates the means by which the ears can be recognized, the everything a true reality in a comparative relation to the pieces and parts made possible to isolate and experience through the body vehicle mechanics. But as is invariably the case, the secondary personal self is overindulged, the real awareness position forfeited, and we rather blunder through a creation, building a consciousness of distortion through that which we free will create, or the ideas as created by others we agree with, until eventually may come the moment when the real awareness chooses to recognize the ears it is a part of. This real intent becomes known to its isolated, personal self-disconnected creation, and the personal self then gradually aligns its intent with the real intent of ears recognition, and a process of effacing the created consciousness we have constructed since we first entered the simulator and the subsequent releasing of its idea, agreement, and attachment entirety becomes so that we no longer are the effects of created ideas and anchored to the simulators. As we continue to compound the consciousness with restriction and distortion of ideas, so we will effect body forms and creational positioning in equal reflected measure. For the consciousness is the self-created template by which our simulated experience is based. In regards to those of a decidedly dastardly and abrasively inclined destructive consciousness design, as we always are the effects of ourselves, so such beings will assume body forms of an equally as distorted nature to the consciousness they have created, and find themselves in dimensional positions which mirror also their consciousness construct, the more dubious areas of creation, etc. The reptilian form is a prime example of that which is effected from a consciousness construct of a destructive design and inclination. But should the reptilian continue to be life and awareness suppressing of themselves and others, so their body types become progressively more distorted, to the extent that they can become as animal forms. For indeed, on many occasions have I encountered reptilians on the real side, that through their continued choice to be oppressive and destructive, so they present in forms such as giant snakes, alligators, or crocodiles. Everything is its instant effect in reality, and on the real side every individual can be revealed as the body forms they actually are now, in reflected accordance with their particular consciousness. But through the design of a consciousness, as it effects as the physical level, through the inclusion of time and space ideas, so every idea is not its immediate effect, but rather there is a delay factor, where that which we have created for ourselves only comes into a physical level manifestation after a certain duration of so-called time has elapsed. That an individual may be destined to become as reptilian through the ideas set in motion, a movie that is complete on the disc, but through the processing apparatus of the physical body forms, much like the DVD player, so what is already a completed movie must be transitioned through from the perspective view of the physical level personal self to its culmination point, the movie's end. And so these reptilians may be as snakes and alligators now, revealed as such on the real side, but from the physical level processing of cause to effect arena, these are regressive forms they will not be assuming until further down the physical level line, generally as future lifetime body types. These crocodiles then, in this real side experience, would indeed be reptilians, that through their choice to continue to be abrasive, so they would be presenting in these regressed animal forms, and indeed effecting themselves into the most unenviable dimensions of creation by way of positioning also. So it was logical to assume the dark and dismal area I was in was very likely the lower astral, what would be the nearest equivalent to a hellish realm. The crocodiles were of various sizes also, as I mentioned, and on the real side, size can be an indicator of awareness, or of the individual's consideration of their status and importance, or indeed the status they have in the eyes of others. For indeed, the power an individual has can have no bearing on others, absent of agreement that it can, as we all are the deciders of our experiences, and additionally the extent, if any, others can impact our body forms. Size, then, can indicate a being's power position in relation to others, and symbolically it follows that the bigger the unaware individual, the more agreement they have to their power, that allows them to express this power over those that have extended agreement to them. And in this case, then, the crocodiles present in what very likely was the lower astral, their sizes denoted their sense of self-importance, or the agreements they had which afforded them status and power accordingly. In reality, every body form, regardless of the choices they have made, animating through them all, will be real awareness, with this same is recognizing imperative ultimately, and our primary objective will be then to share the new you sound true reality connection indiscriminately, and the opportunity of becoming as the real awareness beings of light we all actually are. In this case, then, I was targeting specifically these reptilians, evidently those of a very abrasive nature, hence their animal-like forms, very likely key assets in the dark force hierarchies of simulator control, for naturally, with well-placed reptilians operating within the control systems, should they decide to step up and operate beneficially, they are in positions where they can wield much influence and exact far greater impact, beneficially speaking, than your average limited slave. So it always makes sense to constantly be approaching such beings, regardless of our success or not. As it transpired, there would be only one reptilian who had any interest in what I was promoting, the opportunity of the ears, and he would be a fairly sized crocodile of 15 feet or so. However, all other crocodiles, the reptilians in the dark environment I was in, would not only have no inclination of even considering stepping up and becoming more aware, but would be moved to attack me. The outcome of any conflict is according to agreement between those involved. If I have no agreement that another can harm me, then despite their best efforts, they will be unable. Impressions suggested I was therefore in no peril from the array of various sized crocodiles advancing on me, as I lacked agreement in relation to them that allowed them the ability to bestow harm upon me. However, the reptilian, the crocodile, who had decided to set intent with the ears, would assume a protective posture. He would somewhat push me flat onto my back and stand over me protectively, snapping his jaws at all the other crocodile reptilians in the scene. Generally, the position a reptilian has in the control system is accompanied with the agreement that facilitates it, and where all those beneath that position are subject then to that reptilian's power, and that this stepping up reptilian was able to keep all the others at bay, despite all the crocodiles having prominent positions in the dark force control systems, suggested his position somewhat trumped theirs. So a reptilian of some standing then and very likely would be a valuable asset in regards to our galactic and other dimensional projects, etc. The scene would fade that I had been targeting prominent Dark Force reptilians and had indeed managed to bring a very highly placed reptilian around to stepping up, becoming more aware and assisting us galactically. All this would undoubtedly infuriate the Dark Forces, and if I had ruffled feathers enough, or scales, so might this even be of concern to the reptilian life-level gods themselves, as the control systems ultimately prop up their positions. And should we be compromising the agreements, the prominently placed reptilians that are instrumental in maintaining them, this would be verified by very likely an encounter with the reptilians occupying the pinnacle positions within the Dark Force control systems of the simulator. For indeed, I would find myself in my physical level house recreated, representing the consciousness, and smashing through the wall would be an enormous T-Rex. The T-Rex is referred to as king of the dinosaurs, and very often the Kalaum god, the reptilian overlord of the fourth dimensional level, will assume this form, as it is an apt representation. And so it seemed I had somewhat infuriated the Kalaum through my attempting to engage with certain of his highly placed reptilian assets, and especially as I had been successful in encouraging one to break ranks and elect to begin a process of awareness. The process of awareness involves a facing of every agreement the consciousness comprises of, that on completion we are in positions where we no longer are the effects of any idea and are somewhat indomitable in creation in regards to the ability of other body forms to harm or eliminate us. The Kalaum god has effectively created a simulator overall according to his desires. He has therefore engineered all consciousness that affects the simulator with idea agreements that maintain his position, that practically every idea agreement will in some shape or form be in regards to the Kalaum's power, as every created system, religion, social structure throughout multi-dimensional creation will be by the created hands of the dark forces which ultimately feed through to the Kalaum. All the agreement we have with the various expressions of the dark forces ultimately lead to the Kalaum's door also. We might say then the overall consciousness is the Kalaum consciousness, that until we release its entirety then, the ideas yet to be released will be as agreements extended to the Kalaum, which will be along the lines of acquiescence to his power, which allows his ability to express this power at any moment in our experiences. Realistically then, until the entirety of the consciousness is effaced and released, we remain susceptible to the Kalaum's power potentially. And in this case then, as the mighty T-Rex representing the Kalaum smashed through my house, indicating agreement maintained with him, as my process of complete consciousness releasing is far from complete, and so something of Kalaum agreement will be retained, so he could enter my consciousness representing house, enter my experience symbolically at any moment of his choosing, in a very abrasive and destructive fashion. In the face of an adversity where agreement is retained, in relation to those presenting adversely in our experiences, withdrawal is rather prudent. The Kalaum T-Rex would pursue me as I exited the house through a window. He would smash through another wall onto the side of the house I now was on, and lumber after me as we circled the house, or what was left of it, several times. The scene would fade, the Kalaum T-Rex wouldn't manage to catch me, but I surely had irritated him seemingly. That the prominently placed reptilian in the crocodile form who had stepped up was indeed a big loss to the Kalaum. In a final and unrelated scene, it seemed my multi-dimensional performance or show was continuing with its tour. I have made mention in previous real side experiences that myself and a group have been operating throughout creation on the real side and putting on a show where revealed to all who are receptive are the real references pertaining to the ears, a breakdown of the structure and mechanics of cause and effect creation, the RealU song connection, etc. And among the literal references conveyed would be accompanying scenes and special effects in relation to what we are referencing as a means of captivating better the audience's immersion. In this case, the group and myself would find ourselves on a world that comprised of two distinct species. Both species were those where the secondary personal self had been established, and all were evidently those ready to receive the opportunity of the all ears, hence our presence on their world, and beyond that would be each respective individual's decision as to proceed with the awareness process or not. But at that moment, as I said, both the species of the world were at least openly receptive. We were not met with scorn, hostility, or aggression. Interestingly, the two species would comprise of bipedal two-legged bird body types. That were you to see depictions of the alien body forms referred to as the blue avians, you might have a comparable reference that best expresses their appearances. The other species would be two-legged wolf forms, but specifically they would be werewolves. How these two distinct species had found themselves together on the same world was never revealed, but they seemed to operate harmoniously enough. That although the species rather remained segregated, and despite the expected dramas and altercations as would exist between any beings, even of the same body forms, let alone completely different species, all individuals will have their personal self-attitudes, etc. There was no instigated animosity, battling, or wars of any kind. The werewolf body type generally will be operating in dark force capacities, a monstrous form in reflection of an equally as distorted, ill-intended, inclined consciousness, and invariably the werewolves, including those on this planet, have the ability to convert others to their kind through a bite or scratch, just as it is portrayed in the movies. But throughout multi-dimensional creation, all manner of body types are stepping up and deciding to become more aware, including many of the various expressions of body forms most synonymous with abrasiveness, the reptilians, the vampires, demons, and including the werewolves. In this case, then, every werewolf stationed on this planet were eager to receive what we were to provide, as were the other species, the bipedal avian body forms. I'm uncertain if this was a home world of the werewolves, or if they simply had been placed here and then relocated to other positions by the dark forces to be deployed in their usual capacities of guards, assassins, etc. But should all the werewolves here elect to step up, and their numbers on the planet were vast, the dark forces would be in for a shock the next time they seek to acquire their services. We had erected a huge platform that was positioned over an open countryside area, and we would continue to present our ALLLISSS show over a period of time, and gathered below us, filling the area beneath our platform, would be the avian beings and the werewolves. And as the days went by, so all of the two species populations of the planet would have the opportunity to make the journey to where we were located and receive the years pertaining references, the new song, etc. As I said, it would then be up to each respective individual to decide what they would do with the references they had received, but impressions suggested all were receptive, at least at that moment.